If you'll indulge me, imagine for a moment it's 15 below zero in North Pole, Alaska. It's the perfect temperature for dog mushing competition. You're 7 years old and it's February. You've just clinched the championship title with your team. You are the best musher in Alaska. You're a good student, you're a fair hockey player, and you enjoy canoeing, camping, hiking, and all the other outdoor activities. Outgoing and friendly, you're never at a loss to strike up conversation with anyone. Unknown to you now, within 8 months of being the state champion dog musher, you'll have spoken your last word, taken your last step, and sang your last song. 4 years ago, this was the experience of my 11-year-old son, Ronan. Metachromatic Leukodystrophy came suddenly and dramatically to our family. 1 year was all the time it took from the onset of first symptoms to being fully caregiver dependent. At the beginning of his school year, his concentration began to diminish, and he started demonstrating some slightly awkward social behaviors, so we treated Ronan for ADHD. By spring of that year, his gait had changed, and he began intermittent toe walking. His fine motor coordination was becoming noticeably impaired. It was apparent that this was not ADHD. Within 2 months of observing the first physical symptoms, especially his walking challenges, Ronan's speaking and swallowing ability rapidly decreased, and we scheduled an MRI. His diagnosis of a degenerative terminal condition was shocking, and the knowledge that there were only symptom management therapies available heartbreaking. From the onset of the first symptom, the concentration deficit, to being unable to speak was a period of 12 months. There were only 6 months between complete vocal capacity to an inability to speak. Physically, he had hiked 4 miles in June. He was diagnosed in July, and by October, he was fully wheelchair-bound. It was incredible how swiftly MLD removed so many of Ronan's capabilities. My name is George Drinkwater, and I'm a grandfather, father, and husband living in the remote tribal community of Chistachina, Alaska. We are an Alaska Native and American Indian family from the Chishna and Crow tribes. Ronan has 2 brothers, a sister, and a niece. Our environment here is beautiful, harsh, and isolated. We live 4 hours from our hospital, the nearest Costco in Anchorage. Our nearest grocery store is an hour away, and we get winter temperatures as low as -40. Ronan has thus far traveled about 24,000 miles to receive care and treatment since his diagnosis, and going forward, he will need air ambulance medevac for urgent care needs. His present condition is such that now, 4 years since symptoms began, he has no voluntary motor function. There are no areas of independence in his life. He cannot move, he cannot eat, toilet, or speak. He is also challenged with blindness, neuropathy, and seizures. He requires wheelchairs, lift systems, enteral feeding appliances, and supplemental oxygen. One appliance that he would benefit from is a high-flow nasal cannula, a therapy he has used multiple times in the hospital, and one that his providers would prescribe, but is not approved for home use for his condition. Before losing his speech, Ronan was aware that his life was changing, and he shared how frustrating and sad he was at losing his abilities. Upon reflection, I think he knew for some time before we did that he was facing a challenge unlike those around him. He spoke of seeing an old man who comforted him just before he could no longer talk. Whatever spiritual messenger this was, he was given an assurance of peace, and we noticed that the anger he felt was replaced by gratitude and an abundance of love. Ronan's spirit and courage remain strong, and he is a happy young man with a joyful heart, even in the midst of the boredom he feels. He lives and will pass this life with love, hope, and faith. I want to leave you with a prayer of our late tribal leader and matriarch, Katie John. May God, who created our world, send his spirit to be in you. May he protect you from evil. May his blessing be upon the land. May the land be good where we walk. May the animals have enough to eat for winter. May the water be good, and may the goodness of God dwell within you. Amen. Chanan. Thank you all for listening.